4 months. That's how long it had been since Jordan walked out of my life. 4 months since she sat across from me at our kitchen table, eyes bone dry and voice ice cold, telling me she couldn't picture a future with just an EMT. I can still hear her exact words. It's not about status, Tessa. It's about alignment. Translation? I wasn't good enough. I didn't make enough money. I wasn't impressive enough for her Instagram stories or dinner parties with her marketing friends. My family said all the right things when it happened. Vanessa hugged me tight and said I was better off without someone so shallow. Dylan called Jordan fake and said he'd never liked her anyway. Even Mom chimed in with her usual mix of pity and forced optimism. The right person will love you for who you are, sweetheart, not what you do. It felt real. It felt supportive. Then came the group text that changed everything. 2 weeks before Christmas, Mom dropped the bomb. Hey everyone, this year's going to be different. Money's tight with all these medical bills, and honestly, I just don't have the energy. We're skipping the big Christmas dinner this year. Let's keep it low-key and maybe do something small in January instead. Love you all. I stared at that message for a full minute, my heart sinking. Christmas was Mom's favorite holiday. She lived for the decorations, the cooking, the chaos of everyone crowded around her dining room table. This wasn't like her at all. I called her immediately. Mom, don't worry about the cost, I said. I can cover everything. Food, gifts, decorations. I can even host at my place if that's easier. Oh honey, you've done enough already, she said, her voice strangely flat. We'll make it up to you, I promise. I hung up feeling a weird mix of relief and sadness. Part of me wasn't ready for a big family production anyway. The holidays without Jordan felt too raw, too empty. But something about Mom's voice felt off, like she was reading from a script. The next day, everything became crystal clear. Vanessa sent me a text meant for someone else. Can you grab wine and those gingerbread cookies again? Same setup as last year. My blood turned to ice water. When I asked what she meant, she replied, "Oops, sorry, wrong thread." No explanation, no follow-up, just nothing. Dylan ignored my Christmas check-in text completely. Radio silence. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. I'd always been the quiet one in my family. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I learned early that saying it didn't change much. Vanessa sparkled, always center stage, always praised for her natural charisma and PR success. Dylan stumbled through life with everyone making excuses. He's still figuring things out. He's just not built for pressure. Meanwhile, I filled the spaces everyone else left behind. When Dad left, I helped Mom reorganize the garage so she could rent out the basement for extra income. When Dylan flunked 2 semesters, I picked up extra shifts and sent him money for textbooks. When Vanessa got her dream job in Raleigh and had to move in 2 days, I borrowed a friend's truck and hauled boxes until midnight. Her Instagram post the next morning? So grateful for strong beginnings. No mention of me. There's a wall of family photos in Mom's hallway. Vanessa at her college graduation, cap tilted perfectly, grinning like she owned the world. Dylan in a hospital gown holding Vanessa's newborn, looking overwhelmed but proud. No photo of me in my EMT uniform. No frame from the day I finished certification even. Though I was the youngest in my cohort and had pulled a drowning toddler from a pool during my final rotation. When I told them about that call, about the moment I got the kid's pulse back, Mom blinked and asked if I'd remembered to pick up dog food on the way home. I didn't go into this work to be praised. But there's a difference between doing something quietly and being completely erased. Despite my gut screaming that something was wrong, I wrapped gifts anyway. Nothing expensive, just thoughtful, personalized presents wrapped like they were going under a tree that might never get set up. A watercolor set for Vanessa's daughter, the exact one she'd circled in a catalog back in October. A fleece-lined hoodie for Dylan since he always borrowed mine and conveniently forgot to return it. For Mom, a framed vintage recipe card with Grandma's handwriting her famous cinnamon bread recipe. I thought it would feel like comfort. I thought it would matter. I picked up Chinese food on the way, our usual backup for nights when nobody felt like cooking. It felt symbolic, bringing Plan B to a holiday nobody had planned. The street was quiet at first. Frosted mailboxes, blinking reindeer lights, the usual suburban Christmas scene. Then I turned the corner and saw them, every single car. Vanessa's white BMW angled in the driveway like she was in a rush. Dylan's beat-up Jeep parked halfway on the curb. My aunt's minivan, my cousin's Civic, even the silver Audi that Mom always claimed belonged to friends from church. Every single one of them was there. The house glowed like a Christmas card, light poured from every window, flickering through curtains. I could see shadows moving inside, silhouettes passing dishes, someone throwing their head back in laughter. The front porch had a wreath. The steps were cleared of snow. I felt it in my chest before my brain caught up. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a celebration. Without me, I turned off the engine and sat in the dark. Chinese food containers cooling beside me, trying to breathe past the crushing weight in my throat. That's when I saw her, through the living room window clear as day. Jordan, standing next to Vanessa, laughing, holding a champagne glass like she belonged there. I don't remember getting out of the car. 1 second I was gripping the steering wheel, and the next I was walking up the front steps like some pathetic holiday delivery person. Through the window, everything looked perfect. The dining table was set with Mom's good china, the kind she only used for holidays and funerals. Candles flickered in the centerpiece. Napkins were folded into little trees like she'd learned from Pinterest. The Christmas tree in the corner glowed with perfectly spaced ornaments, not a single bare spot, the kind of perfection she used to say only mattered when everyone's together. Jordan and Vanessa stood so close their arms brushed. Jordan said something that made Vanessa laugh, their champagne glasses clinking together like old friends. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just about excluding me, they were friends now. Comfortable, familiar, they knew I might see this, maybe not tonight, maybe not like this, but eventually. And they didn't care. My hand moved before I made the conscious decision. I pressed the doorbell. The sharp ring cut through their laughter like a knife. Movement paused. Voices died. Mom appeared in the hallway, glancing toward the door like she hoped to see anyone but me. When our eyes met through the glass, her face changed. Not fear, not guilt, something worse, disappointment. She opened the door halfway, blocking the view with her body like that might soften the blow. "Tessa," she said, voice tight as a wire. "What are you doing here?" "I thought Christmas was cancelled," I said, each word landing heavier than the last. "You said you couldn't afford it." Behind her, the silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Jordan turned her head. Vanessa stepped closer to her. Dylan stood by the fireplace with his arms crossed, studying the ceiling like it held the secrets of the universe. Nobody moved. "I brought food," I said, lifting the bag. "But it looks like I'm late to the party." Vanessa reached the door before Mom could close it. "Tess," she said, like she wasn't sure if she was greeting me or bracing for impact. I stepped inside without waiting for permission. The warmth hit me first, heat from the oven, flickering candlelight, the rich scent of roasted meat and something sweet baking in the background. Then came the silence. Heads turned, conversations died mid-sentence. Jordan lowered her glass, eyes glued to the floor. Dylan suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. I stood there in my boots, holding a bag of takeout like a peace offering in a war I hadn't known I was fighting. "It came together last minute," Mom said, her voice carefully measured like she was walking a tightrope. "Vanessa offered to bring a few things, and it just evolved. We didn't think you'd be up for it." I glanced at Jordan. She shifted her weight but still wouldn't meet my eyes. "And Jordan?" I asked. "She just happened to evolve into the guest list too?" Mom's smile wavered. "Jordan's still close with Vanessa. You two ended on difficult terms. We didn't want to make it awkward." "For who?" No answer. I looked around. The table was fully set. Extra chairs had been brought in. Gifts were stacked near the fireplace in perfect little piles. This wasn't last minute. This was planned, intentional, calculated. Then I saw Mom's necklace, the one I'd given her last year after saving for weeks, picking out the exact pendant I thought would mean something to her. She wore it now, casually, like a reminder of everything I'd given even when I got nothing back. Dylan, I said, turning to my brother. You couldn't text me back, but you could show up for this? He shrugged without looking at me. I laughed once, dry and bitter. Right, of course. I dropped the bag of Chinese food on the entryway table, each container hitting the wood with a satisfying thud. Why wasn't I invited? I asked the room, not just one person, but all of them. Just give me that much. Silence. The quiet said everything they wouldn't. You planned this, I continued, my voice getting stronger. All of you. While I thought we were canceling Christmas, you were organizing a whole dinner, decorations, wine, dessert, gifts, and you didn't think to include me. Why? Still nothing. Vanessa stepped forward, jaw tight. You and Jordan were already done. Why would you want her here? I didn't say I wanted her here, I snapped. I'm saying I deserve to know. Vanessa crossed her arms. She and I have more in common, Tessa. She actually understands my life, my work. She doesn't just run into fires and call it a personality. That hit harder than I expected. I looked at Jordan, waiting for her to say something, anything. She stayed rooted to the floor, lips pressed thin. I see, I said. So this wasn't just convenience. This was preference. Mom's voice cut in, gentle, but sharp. Tessa, honey, you've always been so strong, so independent. Jordan fits better with us now. Maybe it's time to let go. Fits better, I repeated slowly. Fits better than the daughter who paid your utility bills last winter? Who refinanced her own car loan to help you after your surgery? Who's been babysitting Vanessa's kid twice a week so she can keep her precious weekends free? Dylan rolled his eyes. God, you take everything so personally. My hands clenched into fists. You mean like the time I covered your rent? Or when you called me crying at AM because you lost your job, and I Venmo'd you my entire savings account? The room went dead quiet. Sharp, uncomfortable quiet. A champagne glass slipped from someone's hand, I don't even know whose, and shattered on the hardwood floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. I took a step back toward the door. My bag was still there, untouched. The food inside was cold now, worthless. I looked at these people, the ones I used to think I belonged to, all frozen in their shame or indifference. Part of me wanted to walk out right then, to leave with whatever dignity I had left, but something inside me, something I'd kept quiet for years behind politeness and obligation, told me not to leave. Not yet, not without saying the things I'd been too afraid to say. You want to know what's really sad? I said, turning back around. For years, I convinced myself I was the strong one, the reliable one, the one who didn't need anything because I could handle it all myself. But you know what I just realized? Nobody answered. I wasn't strong. I was convenient, easy to use and easier to forget. The one who would always show up, always help out, always pick up the pieces, no questions asked. Mom opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. Every birthday I remembered when you forgot. Every bill I paid when you came up short. Every crisis I dropped everything to fix. I thought it made me valuable. I thought it made me family. My voice cracked on the last word. But family doesn't replace their daughter with her ex-girlfriend. Family doesn't lie about canceled holidays while planning celebrations behind her back. And family sure as hell doesn't stand there in silence when she asks why she wasn't invited to Christmas. The broken glass on the floor caught the candlelight, glittering like scattered stars. So here's what's going to happen, I continued, my voice steady now. I'm done. Done covering your bills, Mom. Done bailing you out, Dylan. Done babysitting for free, Vanessa. Done pretending we're a family when I'm obviously just the help. I looked directly at Jordan for the first time. And Jordan, congratulations. You got exactly what you wanted, a family that values status over substance. I hope it's everything you dreamed of. I walked toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and one more thing. That necklace you're wearing, Mom? The one I saved up for 3 months to buy you? It looks beautiful on you. Really brings out your eyes. Her hand flew to her throat, fingers touching the pendant like she'd forgotten it was there. I hope it reminds you of what real love actually looks like, since you seem to have forgotten. I grabbed my bag and walked out, closing the door firmly behind me. The cold air hit my face like a slap, but for the first time in months, I could breathe. By the time I got back to my apartment, the adrenaline had burned off. What remained was something deeper than exhaustion, more bitter than rage. I dropped my keys on the counter, kicked off my boots, and sat in silence. No music, no TV, just the sound of my own breathing, too loud in a space that finally felt like mine. I pulled out my phone and typed quickly. No dramatic build-up. You canceled Christmas but kept the gifts, the help, and the silence. Don't call. Figure it out yourselves. I hit send and for the first time in years, didn't care what they thought of me. Then I got to work. I logged into every account they had access to, credit cards, joint bills, emergency contacts, and removed them one by one. Dylan was no longer authorized to use my Amazon Prime. Vanessa's babysitting calendar was deleted. I changed my emergency contact from Mom to my best friend Jen, the one who actually picked me up from urgent care last year when I tore a tendon. On the job, not family. Jen, the banking app, was next. I canceled the auto payment that sent $300 a month toward Mom's utilities. That number had grown quietly over the years, starting as just for a little while and never stopping. I told myself it was the right thing to do, the loving thing, but I wasn't sure love should cost this much. I blocked every number except Mom's. I didn't trust myself to cut her off completely, not yet. There was still a piece of me that clung to hope she'd call with something real, something different than guilt or denial. But I wasn't holding my breath. The apartment felt quiet in a way that wasn't lonely. It felt new, empty in a way that made space instead of pain. For once, I wasn't bracing for a phone call or a favor or a text asking for money disguised as a check-in. I curled up on the couch with a blanket my grandmother had crocheted years ago. She was the only person who ever looked at me and saw someone complete, not a role, not a resource, just me. I turned off the lamp and let the darkness settle around me like a hug. The messages came slowly at first. Jordan texted 2 weeks after the dinner. I didn't expect to see you that night. I'm sorry if it hurt you. I didn't respond. A week later. We never meant for it to happen that way. That was always the line, wasn't it? That way, as if the betrayal had been a scheduling conflict. Vanessa emailed next. Subject line: Can we talk? Inside was a stream of words pretending to be an apology. I'm sorry you felt left out. It wasn't personal. You've always been so intense about things. Like the problem was my reaction, not their choices. Dylan's text was the most predictable. Hey, do you think you could help me cover rent this month? I'm in a bit of a bind. No preamble. No acknowledgement of what had happened. Just his hand out, as usual. I deleted it without responding. Instead of answering any of them, I spent my evenings updating my resume. There was a listing for a wilderness rescue medic position in Oregon. Remote terrain, fast response teams, unpredictable weather. It sounded like peace and adrenaline wrapped together, everything I needed and nothing I didn't. 2 interviews later, I got it. Packing was easier than I expected. I kept what mattered. My gear, my books, Grandma's quilt, the framed photo of us from her last Christmas. Everything else I donated. I left without saying goodbye. My new place sat at the edge of a pine ridge, snow deeper, sky wider, air sharper than anything I'd ever breathed. People didn't ask what I used to do in real life. They knew this was real life. I wasn't the helper anymore. I was just Tessa. I adopted a mutt from the local shelter, part shepherd, part who knows what. I named her Scout. We spent Christmas together in flannel pajamas, drinking cocoa made from scratch, watching the fire burn low without checking my phone once. No gifts, no tree, no tense phone calls. Just silence, not the kind that punishes, but the kind that settles, the kind that lets you sleep. Scout curled up at my feet as I finished a book I hadn't had time to read in years. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like something was missing. 6 months later, I stood in my kitchen watching steam rise from a pot of homemade stew. Scout snored under the table. The house smelled like garlic and rosemary and something that felt like home, though not the one I'd grown up in. I'd invited a few people from the rescue team, 3 medics, 1 pilot, and a climbing tech named Reese, who reminded me that trust doesn't always have to be earned with blood. They showed up with mismatched Tupperware, easy laughter, and stories that didn't require me to prove anything. No one asked about my past, they just passed the bread and asked if I'd seen the sunrise over East Ridge yet. Above the fireplace hung a small framed photo of me and Scout with the mountain behind us, the sky painted in orange and gold. I'd taken it with a timer one morning before a shift. I didn't look polished or put together. I looked awake. Dad called every now and then. He never pushed, just checked in. Said he was sorry, said he was trying to do better now that the noise had quieted. The more he called, the more I believed him. Vanessa and Jordan didn't last. I didn't ask why, didn't care to hear the details. The damage was done long before their first glass of wine together. Mom left 3 voicemails in the spring. I never listened past the first sentence. That night, I sat at a table I'd picked out myself, surrounded by people who hadn't asked me to carry their lives but offered pieces of their own. Scout nudged my knee, and I slipped her a piece of bread. I didn't say much, just watched and listened, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. For the first time in my life, the silence felt full instead of empty. For the first time in my life, the silence felt full instead of empty, and I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, sometimes it's getting free.